Oh, how are
Hi,
you?
hi Alexis. Good, thank you. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm also well. Welcome, everybody. Today's topic is boundaries, which Rachel and I were just speaking about, affects us all in relation to our own well-being, the ability to say no, and also in relationship with each other. So
Mm.
Rachel's going to share a case study from her clinical practice, and we'll give a few examples of how the need for boundaries, healthy boundaries, show up in your life. And then we'll finish with a brief exercise to help you identify some language that might help you to just set and maintain and keep messaging a boundary as long as you need to until it's firmly in place.
Yeah, and
So,
then we'll at the very, very end, we'll tell people about a couple of our plans for this year.
yes, it's
Yay.
a good year.
So it will. So this topic of boundaries, I think we've done it before, but as I said to you this morning on the phone, even if we have, it's one of those topics that's perennial and people are always talking about it. Clients are often talking about boundaries in their sessions with their therapists. And you see a lot of articles published online about having better boundaries. Brené Brown, who most people have heard of, defines boundaries as sort of knowing what's okay and what's not okay for you so that you can say yes and no based on having a deep sense of yes or no to something. So boundaries help us manage our energy, time, and attention. And I'll say a couple of things about boundaries before we make the connection perhaps between boundaries and the nonviolent communication process, which many people listening will be familiar with. It's not like we ever get excellent at boundaries in all areas of our life and can stop thinking about this topic. Like most things in personal development, it's a lifelong project, and all of us will be better in some areas of our life at setting boundaries than in others. So the client I was thinking of just a few minutes ago, very boundaried at work, was very good at saying no when someone asked her to stay back, if she couldn't stay back or take on a project that she didn't feel was right for her to take on. She was very boundaried at work and quite boundaried with her friends. And this is quite impressive to me because I'm not always boundaried with my work, just when it comes to giving of myself and my energy and squeezing clients in and all that sort of thing. She would never have done that, I don't think. But my client, who was so boundaried at work and with friends, had an addictive relationship with food and was overweight. So really struggled to set boundaries with herself or herself around food in particular.
Yeah.
So she was just, a beautiful person. I'm just bringing her up as a case study because really good in some areas with boundaries. And like all of us, in another area of her life, really struggled. So even as you're thinking about this, you might think, where do I struggle to set clear boundaries and maintain them? Where do my boundaries get a bit wobbly sometimes? In what realm or area of my life do I have trouble knowing what's okay by me and what's really probably not okay?
Yeah, I hear a lot of it coming up in families, particularly parents who say, I might be particularly lenient, and then because I've been lenient, I then crack down really hard. But then, I'm feeling guilty, so I might swing back to that's okay. So the swinging, I think, indicates a need for just a consistent boundary. And similarly with partners, the age-old domestic who's doing the dishes type lack of boundaries can lead to ongoing resentment simply because there hasn't been an explicit agreement. So, I think it does show up in all sorts of places. And like you say, often we're really good in one area, but it doesn't mean that we're good across the board. Yeah.
Exactly. And if we get another definition going here of boundaries to differentiate it from requests, which we talk a lot about in nonviolent communication, this one NVC trainer defines boundaries as simply telling somebody what you are going to do and then doing it. So you can see that in the parenting example that you just gave, Alexis, like telling a child, this is the rule, or this is okay and this is not okay, and then following that through, doing the thing you said you're going to do, is a boundary. Whereas a request, according to Rachel Alexis, is when you are asking someone else to do something with you or for you. So there's a different meaning here, right? A boundary is, this is what's okay with me, or this is what I'm going to do. And a request is, would you do this for me, or would you do this with me? And so both are very life-serving processes, right? Because boundaries help us be clear and discerning and know where we want to direct our energy and attention to meet our needs or protect ourselves or others. Whereas making requests is really about negotiating strategies or actions to meet and protect needs for yourself and others. So this is an important distinction. I think there's a lot of talk about setting boundaries in the self-help literature, and not as much talk generally about making skillful requests. So that's probably something that we could contribute to the broader body of work in this area, I think, is the art and skill of making good requests. And the thing about requests is we hold requests lightly in NVC. It's not a demand. It's just a suggestion. How about we try this, or would you be willing to do this? Whereas a boundary has a bit more, it's a bit more black and white. We're not holding the boundary so lightly. The boundary is, this is what I'm going to do or not going to do. So they're not the same thing.
That's very helpful. So a boundary is something that I can put in place. It is relative to somebody else, but it doesn't rely necessarily on them to put it in place, whereas a request is something that I'm asking to have returned. Okay, that sounds great. We will definitely come back to that. In the meantime, I'm keen to ask our listeners if they've got some ideas about the ways that it's showing up for them. Yes. So please, if you've joined us, just pop us a comment in the chat box below about the areas that it's showing up for you, and that way we can tailor our conversation to your specific needs.
And maybe you could contemplate that question of what areas of life, is it personal or professional? Is it with family or with friends? What areas of your life do you find, or is it with yourself? Do you find it difficult to set and preserve clear boundaries?
Excellent. We have Lisa is joining us today. She's keen to hear about the announcements at the end. Steph's here. She says, hello, lovely ladies. We have Prudence, Anissa, Beck, and 4 others, and Sarah is also with us. So what ways do boundaries, particularly wobbly boundaries, show up for you? I know for me, it's around time, and some of my beautiful clients have actually offered to, set an alarm together so that we define the way that we use the time. And I've certainly found that some of the simple ways are time and place. So that's probably why therapists get very good at it, because we're used to holding appointments. But yeah, that, as you've said, can be a real challenge sometimes to feel that it's organic or, you're still in flow. But I have found that boundaries enables more freedom within that container. So even though it may initially feel constrictive, it ultimately allows a lot more freedom. What's been your experience, Rach?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I agree. That's also been a real struggle for me as a therapist. Is to I have colleagues who do 50-minute hours. They're very religious. They always give themselves 10 minutes between appointments to take notes, go to the bathroom. I'm not very good at that. And partly I think it's because I'm meeting another need. I'm meeting a need for connection and curiosity, and I enjoy my clients. So then I sort of have a little bit of grief and mourning that, I haven't allowed myself a few minutes to get a cup of tea or whatever. So it is this sort of dance of needs. We're always trying to meet our needs no matter what we do. But the boundary would be to make a decision. A boundary is like a decision, right? It's like, I'm going to do this in order to meet these needs. I'm going to finish at this 55. That's actually one of my New Year's resolutions is to finish at the 55-minute mark. So I have my 5 minutes, and you know that it's a decision that I follow through on. And yeah, I think personality type comes into it as well, because we have the same sort of personality type, and it's something we both struggle with. So that's interesting.
Yes, Sarah on that topic of personality type has raised that there's difficulty when there's both a professional and a personal relationship. And I love that you've raised this, Sarah, because it's very prevalent in my world. And, you know, I know that particularly psychologists have very clear boundaries that you need to adhere to for the sake of the board. Whereas I find myself frequently in a position where, you know, I become close with clients. We end up spending Christmas Day together. I've been, you know, overseas with some of my clients. So it's an interesting one. And I think that's where it comes down to this deep sense, as you used the phrase earlier, Rachel, a deep sense of my needs, so that I can tune in when there's some subtle discomfort inside of me that lets me know, oh, that just doesn't feel 100% right to me. Do I need to take a step there just to clarify? Do I need to find some words? And it does, I've found it takes time to write down what I need to say, because the words are often not apparent. And I know in my family, there was very few words around. Can you hold that thought even?
Yes. Or can I get back to you so I've got time to process? Yeah.
That's right. Can I think about that?
Yeah.
And then actually using the time to say, well, when you asked that of me, I felt uncomfortable. I'd be happy to do, you know, maybe this bit, but that bit doesn't sit well for whatever reason. So communication, I can't fault it. And there's been times I've told myself, oh, it's indulgent to spend so much time talking about interpersonal issues, which is the total theme of our conversations. But I just can't fault the willingness to move into the ambiguity and find the language, as hard as it may be. And that once the boundary's there, once I've said it, oh, it's such a relief. I feel lighter. Yeah, the clarity is always worth it, just for that peace of mind.
I love hearing you share that. It reminds me of Peter Levine's idea of a deep, or maybe it was Robert Gonzalez, I can't remember, the deep no and the superficial yes.
Nice. Tell us more about that.
Sometimes we have a deep yes and a superficial no. Well, I think in the case of a deep no and a superficial yes, the superficial yes, these are the things that might stop us from setting boundaries, like wanting to please others, not being afraid of conflict, not having the skills to be able to set a boundary, speak our needs, not having the skills to negotiate, so the requests language. So if we don't have the confidence or the skills or the courage to voice our deeper feelings, our deep no, then we may end up saying yes to things that deep down we're not really saying yes to. And everybody pays the price for that. I still remember, I'll tell you a quick story. When my youngest was 2 years old, she's 12 now. My mum won't mind if she's listening. She won't mind me telling this story. She came to babysit, I think. She came to babysit, and my house was pretty messy. I had to run a workshop. And when I got back, it had been raining. They'd been stuck indoors. My house was pretty dirty. She got a bit critical of my dirty floors and said something like, you know, I thought you might have vacuumed or mopped before I came to babysit. When she went home, I was quite triggered, and I was really confused about her behavior and why I was so triggered. And then it came to me, I don't know if she really wanted to babysit that day. I think maybe she said yes. She kind of didn't really want to. And so instead she was picking on my dirty flaws. So I put that to her. Did you say yes when deep down really you wanted to say no?
Yeah.
She said, yeah, I think that's probably the case.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, please, please, please. I learned this from Marshall Rosenberg. Please don't say yes when deep down it's a no.
Yes.
Because I paid the price for that as well, you see.
I'm sure our listeners have lots of stories like that as well. So please feel free to give us your scenarios, because when you identify it in your own life, it makes it 100 times more likely that you'll spot it next time. As you're speaking, I'm reminded of there was a bit of a tendency amongst the four of us with my ex-husband and our two kids, of bringing up, like dredging up the past when we were annoyed with something. And clearly that was because there was an energetic no, which I'm taking, and correct me if I'm wrong, to be something inside of me. There's I don't want to do that. Yeah, even the face goes nah.
Yeah.
And
the hands go up.
I do.
Let's back. Yeah.
But I override that and say a yes out of obligation or some social expectation, something typically outside of myself, as opposed to an internal sense. And I've recently been rewriting my doable detox program, which I've launched recently, and it's made me very aware that the way that we are with food is a similar response. So if I bring something close to my mouth and there's a subtle kind of pulling away, that would be that same energetic no. Whereas if I'm leaning towards it, the mouth is reaching out, then there's that energetic yes. So the body really does know.
And that can and we need to track that, like everything. We need to just kind of, I have that cup in my house, by the way, that same cat cup. Isn't that funny? Totally irrelevant side note. That changes. Like, for example, a person might eat meat and love meat and then become a vegan, and then their body kind of rejects meat. That's what I've done with sugar with myself. I see, like kids taste sugar and they say, yes, give me more. Whereas I've trained my body to go, no.
Going. Yes.
I get an energetic no to sugar now, which is really interesting. So this can also change, which I think is good to know, that it can be fluid. Like at this time in my life, I might not want to do, I don't know, scuba diving or whatever, but in a couple of years, I might get an energetic yes to scuba diving. Silly example. But what I mean is we need to sort of just keep tracking because it's fluid.
Totally. I love it. Okay, there's been a few comments coming in while we've been talking. Lisa mentions family boundaries, especially with her parents as an adult. Yeah, that's a great topic, because where you once may have accepted an authoritative position as an adult, as you've said, the fluidity, the boundaries change. So how then do I find the words to say, well, that was okay with me last year, but that's not okay with me anymore?
So Lisa, if you're still listening, I'd love to know, is it a boundary around saying yes, either you or someone else saying yes when deep down you mean no? Or is it a boundary regarding, something not being okay with you? What kind of boundary were you thinking of when you made that comment about families?
Yes, Steph is talking about people pleasing, and the other person feels more dominating towards me. And she relates that back to her mum. So she says that makes it harder to keep boundaries. And Prudence is talking about changing boundaries as relationships change. Which is just so essential to remember that, what was okay doesn't mean it's always going to be okay. I'm thinking about it when I was dating this time last year, and, it was all yes, yes, bring it. And then suddenly it was a very clear no.
It changes.
And yeah, and I thought I'm within my rights to change my mind at any given point in time.
Exactly. Because the energies change and the circumstances change. And while you're saying that really important point, I want to add one more thing here, because it's so easy for people to have shame whenever we talk about any of these topics, right? Because it's so easy to think, oh my goodness, I'm so bad with my boundaries, or there was that time I did that thing or whatever, like, I mean, I could give an example of a boundary crossing I've made quite recently. So I want to normalize the fact that we sometimes cross boundaries. We don't always know where boundaries are. And the good thing about transgressing our own boundaries or somebody else's is that there's usually a consequence, right? There's usually a kickback. You eat too much, your body gives you a consequence. You cross someone's energetic boundary, you may really receive a consequence, right? That's how we know where boundaries are. That's how we find our boundaries, is we sort of butt up against some sort of a limit of our physical body or our social relationships. And that's where I know, like when my mum got super critical, I'm like, oh, hang on a minute here. And it turned out she had transgressed her own boundary and she didn't even realize it. So I want to say that because there's no shame in not knowing how to manage your boundaries. This is a lifelong learning project. And by getting it wrong, that's how we learn,
Yes, I love that reminder that it takes a challenge, even confrontation or conflict sometimes,
to
press and then be pressed against.
Yes.
For us both, perhaps even a little bit. I mean, it's negotiation, isn't it? And then we know, that's where that sits. Great.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a really good way of saying it. Yes.
So Jaren has written talking about a certain person where they often want my attention, and when they do, it's almost always somewhat immediately. I've requested that they give me more notice by planning in advance, and I explained the reasons why they still don't seem to want to plan ahead. Leaves me frustrated and I don't know what to do. They've been diagnosed with mild ADHD, but I'm not sure if that explains the behaviour. Do you have any thoughts on that, Rachel?
That is a really interesting scenario that you've posed to us there, Jaren. I am so grateful that you posed that one, because yes, I think this is such a common issue. I live with someone with a mental illness. I live with someone with a physical illness. Their behavior or, inability to do whatever affects me. And I think that's when sometimes boundaries come in rather than requests. I can make a request of my ailing father to do housework, but he actually can't do housework. So, sometimes, and I could make a request of my friend to be more organized, but if they do have ADHD, that might be very, very hard, if not impossible, at least sometimes for them. So this is when I want to set a boundary. I want to say, well, this is what I'm going to do about it. This is how I'm going to manage this reality. I'm going to get a cleaner. I'm going to spend less time with that person, even if I have to grieve the loss of that. Sometimes a boundary actually means sadness and mourning. You have to actually put a boundary.
Yes.
If I have to put a boundary with someone, it might mean that I have to disconnect or detach to a certain degree or in a certain way. And that could be really, really sad. So it sounds nice, to be boundaried and be good at boundaries, but like everything comes at a cost. So Jaren's scenario is really a good one, because Marshall Rosenberg talked about dogging for our needs. Don't just make a request once. You don't know if the person's misinterpreted it. Maybe they haven't heard it. Maybe somehow it'll work the next day and not today. Keep making your requests, but also don't be stupid about it. At some point, you might be like, okay, I can make requests as skillfully as anybody, but it's still, the other person can't do the thing.
Yes.
So now I have to set a boundary to protect my energy and my time.
You're reminding me as you're speaking, Rachel, about the beauty of the needs, and I'm wondering if that's relevant for Jaren. And you've taught me this, Rachel, that that I can make the request, I can allow for someone's condition or predisposition,
Yes.
And I may need to accept that, in which case I can still hold the longing and that's actually a beautiful thing. It's a valid thing to be longing to be heard, or longing, to be heard, as Jaren's case is, on the need for planning and predictability. And I'm a big fan of predictability, as you know, Rachel. So don't give up. Keep dogging for your needs.
We dog for our needs to a certain point, and then if the reality hits us like medicine, that this is just how it is, then there's that beauty of the needs process where I let my yearning for connection, or my yearning for intimacy or certainty or whatever, to be in me, even though it's not outside of me with this person at this time. It's very hard to sit with that sometimes, because longing implies potentially a bit of pain or bittersweetness around it. So I like to talk about that longing sometimes, or journal about it, or write a poem or something, just to try and stay with the fact that it is a beautiful need. It isn't happening right now with this person, and that's my preference, but I can't always have my first preference. But we could do a whole live stream on the beauty of the needs one day, maybe.
Yes. And just a little aside, but I'd love to hear your poetry, Rachel. Will you start putting out some memes of your poetry? So Jaren continues.
Bad poems. I'll share them one day.
They're beautiful. They're beautiful. And your songs. Jaren says that, I think if I trusted my own feelings of whether I want to do something or not, I'd almost never do anything. But I find that I do sometimes enjoy things when I do go, which makes that point of trusting your feelings rather complicated for me. Jaren, come to our NVC practice group, because we've seen real transformation and experienced it for ourselves. And it is a lifelong practice of trusting, validating feelings and needs. And I think there's a kind of momentum in that, as I get some evidence that, oh, wow, that was a really beautiful process. I feel closer and connected because I did trust myself, and I did reach out to someone, for example. What are your thoughts on that one, Rachel? And then I've seen Lisa's responded too. This is great, you guys.
Well, I agree with what you've just said, and I've scheduled a post which I'm excited to reread when it appears on my newsfeed later on the MVP page for 7 p.m. tonight. Cool. On other-based self-esteem, which is where we it's like, I'm worthwhile if you think I'm worthwhile, where we kind of project. Terry Real talks about projecting abundance onto other people. So thinking that other people have what we need. This connects to the beauty of the need and breaks codependency when you kind of realize, basically what I wanted to share was, Terry Real has this practice where you close your eyes and you say, this is a good moment. There's not war. I am safe. I have food to eat. Like I'm fine. I'm protected, and I'm healthy, and I'm safe. And all the abundance in my life is around me and in me. It's abundance meditation that he has. He calls it reappropriating abundance, which is a very long title. It also helps me. It's similar to the beauty of the needs, because instead of clinging and grasping and seeking, which can end up in demanding, like I have to have this thing from this person, there's something about reining my energies in with this abundance meditation that can kind of soothe my nervous system and I guess help me come back into my boundaries. There's something about boundaries and feeling like you're enough, because one of the times we will transgress our own boundaries, I did it recently, is if we're really triggered, if we're really dysregulated and really stressed. That is the most susceptible time for any of us to drop our boundaries and either cross over using too much aggression, or collapse and go into despair, which means we have no boundaries and other people might cross ours. So this is a huge topic, but there's a lot to be said for self-soothing, as you said, lifelong process of connecting with your deeper feelings and needs, knowing you have enough, the abundance meditation, and then coming from that place of self-fullness.
Yeah.
So much better.
Yes. On that, if you're listening, grab yourself a pen and paper, because part of our boundary today is to follow through on what we've told you that we'll do.
That's right.
And yeah, I love the way our conversations just unfold, because you're reminding me of the way that, that worth is very much tied in with boundaries. And if I feel that I'm not worthy, I'm much more likely to overextend myself, even if there's an energetic no.
Thank you. That's a really good example.
Now, Lisa, she has responded to your query about how boundaries are showing up in the family. She says, boundary where something isn't okay with me. For example, I'm no longer okay with parents assuming I'm okay with them being involved in my medical appointments. Yes, whereas as a teenager, I wanted them involved. So that changed.
That changed, yeah. Great. Well, Lisa, you use that example that you've shared in the process that Alexis is going to quickly facilitate for all of us now. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I've just seen our lovely Liz Power is watching too. So, okay, simple. This is my basic journaling practice. We can do it within even a couple of minutes. On your page, just write down the side these letters: O for observation, F for feeling, N for needs, and R for request. And then bring to mind the area in which you're struggling with a boundary, particularly if you're finding it hard to find the words. So as I mentioned, in my family, we weren't good at that. My mum is, and I hope she won't mind me sharing this, but she still gets very stressed on the phone when my stepdad is talking to her and I'm talking to her, and I say, Mum, say these words: darling, would you please wait? But she's just in a stress response, and the words are not there. So this exercise is exactly for that. The O is to write down, I notice, and this is a very simple statement around the situation that you find yourself in. So, for example, for my mum, she would say, I notice when two people are trying to talk to me, I experience stress.
So the observation is two people talking at once, and the feeling is stress. Quite simple, yeah? Great, that's right. We've already gone through the feeling. Exactly. I feel, exactly. So feelings, now take your time to honor the feelings. The simplest way I've found is to honor it in the body. Could be I feel my shoulders, I feel my neck or my jaw tightening. It could be I feel in my gut a clenching. It could be my legs feel slightly shaky. It could be my voice gets a little waver. And then the needs, and this is where it's worth paying a little bit of, probably even closing your eyes and dropping your attention low into your belly to acknowledge that underneath the feeling, there will be something important to you. And if you give yourself the next few breaths to identify what that is, whether it is the need for calm, whether it is the need for clarity, sometimes it's a need for direction or purpose. It could be the need for understanding. It could be the need for perspective. Just allow, it could be a few needs. Allow yourself to jot those down. Need for belonging and inclusion. And then finally, a request. And here, let's practice making a request of somebody else today. So, I'll use the person's name. So my mum would say, so Lexi, would you mind holding for a moment? Would you consider
In the case of if you're finding your voice is a bit wavered, so, Mum, would you mind if I attended this appointment on my own? You know, and you can decide whether it's appropriate to just practice doing it softly, one at a time, or maybe you're ready to say, so Dad, you know, would you mind if from here on I just handle this myself? You know, would you mind if I came to you for support on other areas so that I can learn an aspect about this process? And yeah, you can just wrap that up in the next few minutes. Highly valuable to keep going, and you can flow through that numerous times. OFNR, OFNR. By the time you've done it 3 times, you'll have a really good exploration and a good sense of the words that you need so it feels natural, and but so that you can follow through. That's really the key, isn't it? The follow through. And then, as you've said, Rachel, the dogging, the messaging a number of times if you need to, that is very important, and it's not going to change. I'm open to negotiation if you have needs you'd like to add, but that's where it stands for me. Yeah.
Thank you for facilitating that. I also can't speak highly enough of doing a very quick, simple OFNR journaling process on your phone, which is where I often do it, on paper, in your head if you have to. Like, what happened? What was the moment of triggering, the micro moment? Sometimes just when that moment in time where I was fine and then I was triggered. What was triggered? What was the feeling? What does that tell me about what I need? And now what do I want to happen? And maybe the request is of yourself and it's a boundary. From now on, I'm going to do X.
Yes.
So then it's a request of yourself that becomes more like boundary setting. But if I say to you, hey, Lexi, could you just hold on a minute, just pause and I'll come back to you. That's a request because I'm asking you to do something. That's kind of coming full circle from where we started this live stream.
Awesome. Now we're nearly ready to wrap up, but before we do, I'd love to hear how that process was for you guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, whether there was any new insight or, you know, yeah, how it was for you. And while you jot your comments, I'm very excited to share with you what's been happening. Yeah, in preparation for this exciting year. In fact, I'm going to give you a moment because I don't want to move on too quickly. I'm really keen just to hear, yeah, even just a couple of words about how that went. I can share with you our practice group coming up. The 29th, I think we said, or the 28th of January. And that is set in stone on the last Sunday. It'll be the 29th. Last Sunday of the month. Just show on up like clockwork. The more you come, the easier it gets. We do flow through this very OFNR, and you'll get to do it with others. So the immersive experience is really very transformative. We've seen that. So that one is 9:30 to 11:30. I'll put a link below. Sunday morning here at Graceful Bowls, and we're offering that this year online as well, so you can show up via a link. Now there's no comments there, but that's okay. We'll keep flowing. If you do want to post something on that, it can be a helpful way just to debrief the exercise and cement it in. But the exciting news this year is that Rachel and I are offering a series of mentorships. And I think this has come about because over the last couple of years, we've been gathering our resources and we've realised, actually, we've got a whole bunch of products on the shelf that we can share as holistic resources. So we're covering off on a very broad range of areas, from nutrition to yoga philosophy. There'll be elements of attachment theory. Of course, nonviolent communication will be thread all the way through. And we've got a few different options for you, from a self-paced journey to a whole 12-month mentorship, which we're calling the archaeologist, because you'll have an opportunity to really uncover aspects of yourself that you probably sensed but may not have seen before. So if this is the year that you're really making yourself a project, your body and your mind, then come along with us. We've got lots to share, as you can tell by these live streams, and we love nothing more than sharing it in a group, where there's an element of peer mentorship as well.
That's right. Yeah, it'll almost be like doing a masterclass, series of masterclasses with us, because we'll have continuity of the small group setting where we can have a lot more interaction. If we're on Zoom, we can all be on Zoom. We can do breakouts in dyads with the breakout room function. And, you know, we can offer homework and people can do processes in between our meetings. And in that way, it's a bit like doing, I've done some sort of masterclass programs with mentors of mine in the past. And, you know, I think that will give people, like you've said, a much richer, deeper excavation of themselves and their needs and their feelings. So, it's an exciting project for us to be launching. And I believe you've posted and can post in the comments again, Alexis, a link to the information session about the mentoring program.
That's right. So I'll put a link to the 2 mentorship programs that I've just mentioned, in case you guys are really like, yep, ready to roll. But if you'd like some more information, then please save the date this coming Thursday at 4 p.m. And Rachel and I will just spend about 45 minutes talking in more detail about what to expect from each of the programs. And you can bring questions, you know, if there's particular areas you'd like to cover off on. As Rachel mentioned, it's a small group that we'll be working with. So just 5 people in any given mentorship program. And there's only really room for, 15 people. So, if you know that you want to do it, just jump on.
Yes.
The price will be going up after Thursday. The sooner you jump on, the better.
Fabulous. Okay, well, hopefully people can sign up for at least the information session about the mentoring program. And thank you to everyone who participated in the conversation today.
Jaren asks, will the archaeology involve discovering a new species of dinosaur? What do you think, Rachel? Shall we aim for that?
Metaphorically, there's ancient stuff inside all of us, Jaren. So let's try and access some of that primal intelligence. How's that for an answer?
Primal, I'm liking. Definitely the 12-month is going to be, well, it's all the stuff that Rachel and I really love talking about that we haven't shared on these live at Vibes.
We have some cool processes that we have not shared on these live streams. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. If you would like to come on Thursday, just click that you're coming, and that way we'll know to send you the information. And thank you again, Rachel. What a pleasure.
Thank you, Alexis. Likewise. I will see you soon.
Great. See you soon. Bye everyone. Ciao.
See you.